Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus Reports, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's going on out there, everybody? This is Ben Dickerson, your co-host. Real quick, like I always do before we get started, want to let everybody know that I did a lot better on my picks last week. In fact, I had a nice bounce back week from that very poor week 7. So week 8, I was actually 10-6. Now, my next goal is to not only have a good week, but win more than 10 games. So stay tuned. I'm doing my best. This is one topsy-turvy season, bro.
Let me see here. 10 divided by 16, right? That's how it goes. 62%.
Yeah, I gotta do better than that. Last year I did so much better than that.
Remember I said that last week the Bias Plus report had only 3 games right out of the entire day.
That was crazy.
That was crazy. This week, 75% correct.
Excellent. Excellent.
We're just tracking the numbers. Again, I'm not saying anything like I invented the net points. I'm just tracking this thing. And
right.
Wow. We should now last week was the week that we should have bet money. The week before that would have been the week we would have we
lost money.
We lost some money. For real, man. But you know, the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. Well, first of all, let me just say to everybody, happy November 1st.
Yes, it is November.
Yeah, we're into November, man.
Weather's changing. I think summer's finally over.
You know what I'm saying? I'm with you, you know? So Sterling Net Point Power Rankings is my way of tracking, let's say more ranking these teams by their margin of victory on average. The win differential, the net points is what we call that. And you can go to my Facebook page or my blog. My blog is at sterlingnppr.com, and you'll see all of the charts with all of this information that we're going to be talking about. Or you can go to Facebook and look up Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and follow us on Facebook. And you know the raw chart information is going to be there. We take those rankings and utilize them for the matchups that are coming up, and we call that the Bias Plus reports. The basic idea here is if you have a team who's winning by, say, an average margin of 20 points, and they play a team who's winning by an average win margin of 5 points, that 15-point differential would favor the team with the greater net point average. That's all we're saying here. And that just seems logical. Now, the question is, how often does that hold true? And we see that it doesn't hold true 100% of the time. That's for sure. But
would it be possible?
Huh?
Would it be possible to say that that's a win probability?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
It's a win probability. You can look at it as a probability, but I'm not stating it as a probability. In other words, I'm not saying there's a 62% chance that any team's going to win. Okay? That's right. Kind of more a probability than saying, based on net points, you know, this team is favored by a net point margin of this amount. Because it's just different, you know, the net point methodology is different. We like the rankings because it eliminates what, Benny? No opinion?
And no conjecture.
No conjecture. So
nah, that's just me.
Straight.
I'm the opinion guy.
You know, that's it right there. So I just put the numbers out, the raw numbers as they are. We talk about net points. We talk about points for, that's your offensive scoring. We talk about points against, that's your defense, keeping the other team from scoring. And we talk about turnover differential because turnovers lead to points. So everything is pretty much focused around points. And you can find that again Now, this is Ben and Barry on football. Our website is www.benandbarryonfootball.com. Since this is on YouTube, I'll ask you to click the like and the follow button or the bell, so you get notifications when we put out the video, and you'll get a little ding ding there. So, to give you an idea about the kind of information that we find when we dig into net points, Benny, I looked I was kind of looking for some trend information. And so just looking at the last 3 games of the season, right?
Right.
1 through 5, net points, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's start out with number 5. Over the last 3 weeks, the 5th best net point average went to the Miami Dolphins at +7.
At +7?
+7. All right, so that means on average they're winning by 7. We know they're scoring big time.
This is over the last 3 weeks.
Points.
This is over the last 3 weeks.
Just over the last 3 weeks.
Got it.
Number 4, Minnesota at +8.3. Minnesota, tragedy in Minnesota. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. Here's your top 3, Benny. Over the last 3 weeks, winning by a net point average. Number 3, winning by +10.7, Cincinnati. Cincinnati has a momentum. They stumbled coming out the block, but man, they picked up the pace like a champ.
Yes, sir.
Surprise number 2, Jacksonville, +11.3. Jacksonville.
What was their plus?
11.3.
Okay.
Okay. Now for 2023, just to give you an idea, again, Cincinnati and Jacksonville. For the year 2023, Cincinnati is -1.9.
For the entire season.
For the entire 2023 season so far, the first 8 games.
But for the last 3,
they're +10.7.
Right.
Now,
so,
part of the victimization came against my beloved Niners. But that's the facts, Jack. And so Jacksonville, through 2023, their average is +4.6 net points. They're winning by an average of 4.6 net points. But over the last 3 weeks, +11.3. Sounds like momentum.
And
this
number 1
probably scares me the most right now.
And number 1.
And number 1 for the year, +10.1. But for the last 3 weeks, +15.7. Baltimore Ravens. Man.
I was just having a discussion on Facebook with somebody about the Ravens, and he didn't want to hear it.
And you know what I said last week? If you have a quarterback that can force a team to play 11 on 11, it gives you an upper hand and as far as being able to get to the championship. But so many teams they struggle once you take them to that, or once you take them to that, they're just not there yet. That's when you take advantage of them. I did watch it play one of those. It was man on man, and everybody's running downfield with their man, and the quarterback goes, "Who's that? There's nobody here." He runs off. You know what I mean?
But that's the difference between a team that has a quarterback with that kind of ability that he can use when it's time to use it, as opposed to a team that has a quarterback with that type of ability who needs for him to use it all the time to make the offense go.
Well, I tell you what. Right now, Lamar Jackson is throwing the ball as well as anybody out there.
Which means he doesn't have to use that ability at all times.
Except for maybe the rookie out of Tennessee.
What rookie out of Tennessee? You talking about Will Levis? Bro, we'll get to that later.
I'm sorry. I just thought I had to throw that in there. Will Levis has made history. He made some kind of NFL record last week. Tell us about it later on. All right, let's get ready to kick this thing off, Benny. Ben and Barry on football, www.benandbarryonfootball.com. We present the Bias Plus reports for NFL Week 9 for the 2023-24 season. Kicking it off on the Thursday night, Benny, we have the Titans, the 3-4 Titans at the 4-3 Steelers. Bias Plus 1.4 favors the Steelers. That's pretty close. That's a small bias right there, Benny. A small bias.
Yeah, it's a small bias. We got two AFC teams, one South, one North. Very similar records. One's 3-4, one's 4-3. So this promises to be a close contest. Well, on paper, it promises to be a close contest. I don't know that it actually will be. Gee whiz. These teams are tricky, man.
And so they kept and I just said Will Levis, right? Isn't that Will Levis?
Yes.
Okay.
Just talked about Will Levis.
Just talked about him. They kept Derrick Henry, so he didn't get traded by the deadline. They've got DeAndre, they got Nuke, and Nuke is nuking them right now.
Well, but Nuke hasn't been nuking them. Nuke exploded when Levis exploded.
Sometimes,
Nuke's been having a
sometimes
really
it's that combination. You know what I mean? It's that You remember what I used to say about the Eagles and for the Eagles?
Who, McNabb?
McNabb, okay. When I used to say about McNabb, when Andy Reid was trying to run the West Coast offense, that he went and got the wrong quarterback. McNabb's a big, strong, mobile quarterback with a strong arm, but he wasn't accurate. He didn't have a lot of touch. So since the West Coast offense was predicated on short passes and then a run after the catch, that's what you needed. That's what made Joe Montana Joe Montana. But when Terrell Owens came along and opened up the field, stretched things out, 10, 15-yard pass with McNabb is no thing. He can throw that pretty accurate, as a matter of fact. And he had a guy like McNabb opening up the field, running all over the place, catching everything. So that combination kind of exploded on the scene right there. And sometimes that's what you need, That's what my man in Vegas, Devontae, that's what he don't have, that quarterback,
So I guess that's safe to say that you believe that when they decided to bring DeAndre in, that wasn't a good match with Tannehill, because Tannehill lacks the arm strength and the ability to be accurate downfield and do or throw the type of pass patterns that Hopkins is good at.
I really wasn't trying to say anything about him. I was just saying that they matched up. Him and Levis seem to have matched up well, especially on the deep ball. Now, maybe the next game they're going to play the deep ball a little bit better now that they've seen somebody get zapped by it. But I'm just thinking about that as an analogy to with the TL thing. And I don't know, what maybe this was just something that they ran different now that they had Levis in there and when they had, the other quarterback in there. So, but bottom line, right now, you got the Titans. I'm not sure, Benny, how's our quarterback for the Steelers? Are we going to be seeing Mitchell Trubisky out there?
I don't know. Let's see. Well, Kenny Pickett himself says that he's going to be ready to go on Thursday.
Okay.
Now, it's a rib injury, as opposed to these guys that say they're ready after they have a concussion. Nobody listens to that because they know it's up to the doctors. It's still up to the doctors to clear him. But usually when you have an injury like a rib injury, especially for a quarterback, it's about pain management. You know what I mean? This guy can manage the pain, he can probably play. And considering that the backup is Mitchell Trubisky, I'm sure that if he says he can manage the pain, then they'll have him out there.
They're gonna let him do it.
They'll let him do it. But yeah, as far as the Titans are concerned, Coach Mike Vrabel finally settled on who his backup quarterback is going to be because, you know, he let Malik Willis play a little, he let Levis play a little, and nobody's quite sure which way he was leaning, if in fact he had to make a move or if in fact Ryan Tannehill sustained an injury. So Tannehill goes down. He did play both quarterbacks in this game, which I shot you a text. I don't know if you saw it, but I reminded you of a quote that John Madden said, that if you have two quarterbacks, you really have none. But then he finally did settle in on Will Levis to replace Tannehill, and Levis promptly put his bid in to be the starter going forward and not just the franchise quarterback of the future.
That's an understatement.
He will probably be the franchise quarterback of the future, but like I said, as far as he's concerned, they can leave Tannehill on the bench, possibly trade him off to somewhere else because Will Levis looks like the guy. Now, yeah, it's only one game. Yeah, but he looked great. They defeated the Falcons 28-23. Levis threw 4 touchdown passes. 3 of them went to DeAndre Hopkins. If I remember correctly, all 3 of them were long balls. He had one to Nick Westbrook-Akine. I think that was a short one. They also got their running game going, which usually can happen when the defense can't get to your quarterback because he's quick releasing on them and busting deep yardage down the field. So then the running game opened up, and Derrick Henry racked up 101 yards on 22 carries, which is a normal day for him, or used to be a normal day for him. The defense played well also, and it's the defense, as far as I'm concerned, for the Titans that's always been up and down so far this season. But this day, they were good. They recorded 6 sacks, and they had 1 takeaway. So that was a good job done by Will Levis, good job done by the Titans. It was the Falcons, though, so again, like I said, we got to kind of wait and see about this Will Levis thing. Now, at the end of a forgetful first half against Jacksonville, quarterback Kenny Pickett of the Steelers got drilled in the ribs and couldn't return in the second half. Mitchell Trubisky took over. He did throw a touchdown pass in the third quarter, but he also threw not one, but two interceptions. One of them I remember distinctly because when they showed the replay, he threw the damn thing in triple coverage. We're going to have to bring back Trubisky in it up.
You know what that means, right?
Yes.
So triple coverage. That means it's at least one, maybe 2 guys out there
that's wide open.
Wide open.
Exactly. So at the time I was getting my notes together, I wasn't sure about Pickett. Like I said, the last thing I saw was that he thinks he'll be ready to play. So we'll have to see. Considering that I believe that he will play and the Steelers are at home, I'm skeptical about this Will Levis thing. I'm going to pick the Steelers to win this one. I'm going to go with the bias.
Ooh, okay.
That was long drawn out. That's
like
Thursday
that's
night.
predicated on turnovers more so than net points. It's that close between the 2 of them. And
okay, but guess what? That's even more of a reason for me to take the Steelers. Rookie quarterback.
Okay, all right. I hope Levis don't come out there and throw 5 touchdowns on them boys, but we'll shall see.
He might.
I just think it's hilarious. I think it's funny, to be quite honest, that he's and I am absolutely, and we talked about it, kind of amazed at his arm. Although that was what he kept saying, you know, during the entire combine process, whatever. I got a cannon. I got a cannon.
Yeah, he's got the arm. There's
Okay,
no
you got
doubt
a
about it.
cannon.
No doubt about his arm strength. But we know that it takes more than that to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Accuracy, decision making, blah, blah, blah. So we'll see.
We'll see. But right now, you're going with the bias. Going
Yes.
with the Steelers.
Yes.
All right, going with the bias. That's how you keep your numbers up, man. Go with the bias.
Evidently.
Evidently. But Denny, Sunday, Monday, early Sunday, first time Germany.
Oh, this is the Germany game. Okay.
Germany. And look what Germany gets to kick it off with. Dolphins 6-2 at Chiefs 6-2.
Nice. Nice.
And look at that teeny tiny, teeny weeny bias. 1.1 favoring the Dolphins.
It does favor the Dolphins, though, which maybe a couple of weeks ago I might have been surprised, but after last week, I'm not surprised. The Dolphins bounced back from their 31-17 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles in week 7 to come back and defeat the Patriots last weekend by the same exact score, 31-17. Tua looked sharp going 30 of 45. 30 of 45, that's pretty good. 324 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw 1 interception. Half of his 30 completions, that's 15 of them, went between Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who each caught a touchdown pass, as Tua continues to lead the league in passing yardage with 2,416 yards. That's big time, man. That's big time numbers. And, coming into the season, Tyreek Hill talked about getting 2,000 yards receiving on his own. So I don't know how close he is to that, but they're on their way with passing yardage for sure. Now, oh, wow. Patrick Mahomes had the flu last week. Okay. He was a lackluster 24-38. That's not good for him. That's actually bad numbers for him. Very pedestrian, 241 yards. He had 0 touchdowns, none on the ground, none through the air, and he threw 2 interceptions. And he lost a fumble. This sounds like I'm talking about a rookie quarterback, not Patrick Mahomes. 241, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a lost fumble. The Chiefs as a team turned the ball over 5 times total. They got 3 field goals. I'm sorry. Yeah, they got 3 field goals in the first half. They didn't score it all in the second half. They looked bad. Now, I saw this coming. I spoke on it early in the season. Their receiving core is nowhere near what it's been in the past. Their best receiver is Travis Kelce. He's been getting it done. Nobody's really been able to cover him. But in this game, they were able to at least slow him down, and nobody else stepped up. That looked bad. That looked really bad.
I heard Patrick Mahomes had the flu. Are you going to give him any little bit of, empathy?
That's the first thing I said. Patrick Mahomes had the flu. That's what I said.
Okay. So
I don't care. Michael Jordan had the flu.
It was about the empathy.
Michael Jordan had the flu one time. Michael Jordan had the flu one time. What happened in that game?
You're putting them on that. You're putting them up against Jordan, eh?
Everybody else does. Everybody else does. A guy argued me down. Everybody else does. So they can take that, put it in their pipe and smoke it, okay? Without a receiving core, without a go-to guy besides Kelce, this is not going to get it done. This is not going to get it done. Their defense is good. It's still kind of young. It's much improved from last year, but they are not going to win the games that they're supposed to win if they cannot put the ball in the end zone. 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns. Now they will be at home. I'll assume that he will be over the flu, but guess what? He'll still have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Reese Rice. Yeah, they'll all still be there. Let's see if they can get it done this week because they couldn't get it done last week. I'm going to take the Dolphins.
You said they're home, but we're in Germany, so they're not home.
That's right.
It's home. So I don't know how that all works. You know.
Yeah, I don't know who's
I
going to
don't
be
know how the
the favorite
booking,
as far as the fans are
home
concerned.
field advantage when you're in a place like everybody's away across in Europe somewhere.
Well, it remains to be seen because the European teams do have their favorites now.
Well, we talked about that in terms of
Yeah.
the European teams. They come out in full regalia and
Right, but we won't know
until. So I guess you're talking about the energy, home being an energy that's being generated in the stadium between the fans of the two teams. So yeah.
Well, actually, when I said it, I forgot for a moment that the game was in Germany. So you can strike that and just say that Ben's taking the Dolphins. I don't care where they're playing. How about that?
So listen to this real quick. The Dolphins have the number one offense scoring 33 points per game. But they have the 25th ranked defense allowing 25 points per game.
Right.
All right. The Chiefs, okay, now the Dolphins rank 5th in net points. The Chiefs rank 6th in net points. Just getting it done on a slightly different level, where the offense is ranked 12th. They're putting up 23.4 points per game, but their defense is ranked 2nd. When's the last time Chiefs had a 2nd-ranked defense, only allowing 16.1 points per game? So the question is, can that defense slow down that Miami offense that's averaging 33 points a game and put it somewhere closer in the range of a 25-point game?
Okay. Well, I didn't say, but I will remind everybody now. They lost last week to the Denver Broncos, who scored 24 points on them and won the game 24-9. Doesn't look good, bro.
Well, 9 points. And you know something? That was a Halloween game, Benny. The goose.
Here we go.
They were all out, man. I'm telling you.
Go.
Weird
You're gonna say
things
something about
happen.
me. You're gonna say something about me comparing Mahomes to Jordan, and then you're gonna come up with some supernatural bull. Get out of here, man.
Ghosts and the goblins.
Get out of here. If the Broncos can put 24 on them, what do you think the Dolphins are gonna do?
Oh my God. Chiefs defense, baby. What they gonna do?
We'll see.
Defense. All right, you going with the Dolphins. Bias plus is 1.1. You going with the bias.
Yes.
Next up, the Bears at the Saints. 2-6 Bears, 4-4 Saints. Bias plus 11.6 favors the Saints. Badgett, can Badgett get it done? Badgett, they said.
I got a mea culpa.
A nickname was something that they were talking about for him already. So
I got a mea culpa on this one. So let me talk about the. I said I got a mea culpa on this one.
Okay.
So let me talk about the Saints first. So David Carr played really, really well. I think the week before he didn't play well, but this week he actually did play very, very well. He carved up the Colts secondary. He got 2 touchdowns apiece from Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara, and he put up big numbers on the Colts secondary. So he looked great. Tyson Bagent had no such luck. He was 25 of 37 for 232 yards. He threw 2 interceptions. He had no passing touchdowns, and they lost to the Chargers. Now, you made this game between the Bears and the Chargers your intriguing game of the week.
Badgett?
Sunday night, excuse me?
Because of Badgett?
Okay, all right. And I figured that. Now, I went to the Sixers game on Sunday night. So I was all Sixered up. I'm all basketballed up. You know what I mean? After the game is over, Desiree and I shoot over to Xfinity Live, get a couple drinks for the road. I'm watching the big screen TV and I'm flipping through my phone and I see that you made them the intriguing game of the week. So I start teasing. You probably didn't even read my comment.
Go ahead.
I was teasing you about drinking the Tyson Badgett Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid?
What I forgot was I picked the Bears to win this game. So, and if I didn't say anything, you probably wouldn't have remembered, and I could have got away with teasing you. But I'm going to be honest, the Chargers are driving me nuts. I hate their coach with a passion, and I picked the Bears to win this game, which was pretty goofy on my part. That would have been my 11th win of the week.
I think you had the odds for the coach for the Chargers getting fired before the coach for the Raiders.
Well, I don't know. If I had to give you odds on that, I think I would have picked McDaniels first because he really sucks. But anyway, so the Bears have to go to New Orleans. I don't think they'll have as much luck as they had last week against the Chargers. I'm going to pick the Saints to win that game. I think that the Bears defense is really a mess right now. And Derek Carr seems to be really getting hot down there in New Orleans. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Saints.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Bears defense is ranked 28th, allowing 27.3 points per game.
Yeah, they're getting shredded.
Saints defense is ranked 9th. So, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. And see, this is what we say about the bias plus reports. It just makes sense, you know? I mean, the Saints have been playing better basketball. Look at the record. Better. I'm going to say better basketball, better football, you know?
Right.
You know, so before we leave out at the end, we got to talk about Wembayana a little bit at least. The Cardinals 1-7. The 1-7 Cardinals at the Browns, who are 4-3. Bias plus of 5.5 favors the Browns. Okay, that kind of makes sense. And then they just sent Josh Dobbs off. So
both these teams got a lot of stuff going on.
Huh?
Both of these teams have a lot of stuff going on. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned Josh Dobbs. So let's talk about Joshua Dobbs. So he drove the Cardinals 75 yards on their opening drive and he scored on a 1-yard run. That's how they opened up the game last week. They didn't score again until the fourth quarter when Dobbs threw 2 touchdown passes. Yeah, 2 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter. I thought he had 1 in the third, 1 in the fourth, but he had 2 in the fourth quarter. And then promptly threw 2 interceptions, and the team punted and got stopped on downs, and they lost the game. I got by. Anyway, since then, it has been determined that Kyler Murray may be ready this weekend. If not this weekend, then next weekend, which would be week 10. And they've already decided that if, in fact, he's not ready this weekend, that they're going to go with their rookie to play at least that 1 week before Kyler Murray is ready. They made sure that they announced that almost immediately after the game was over to let people know that Dobbs was available because they know there are teams out there with injuries to quarterbacks who may be wanting to trade. And sure enough, the Minnesota Vikings grabbed Joshua Dobbs up. I forget what they gave him, gave the Cardinals for him, but I think that was a real smart move on their part. We'll talk about Minnesota and Cousins and stuff later on. But yeah, Josh Dobbs is on his way to Minnesota right now. He learned the Cardinals playbook in like a weekend He'll
I
probably do
know.
the same thing in
You
Minnesota.
think is he some kind of rocket scientist? I heard does he have like a PhD and
Yeah, I think he's a pretty smart guy.
yeah, he's not your normal smart guy. He's a smart
And
guy.
he's not just a smart guy, but this guy's got really good skills. And he seems to be able to learn his receivers really quickly also in practice. Guys, different speeds, different routes that they like to run. I'm sure he talks to everybody at length about things like that because every quarterback should do that anyway, but I'm sure that he does. And he seems to be able to master these things pretty quickly. So I think he'll be an asset.
Okay. All right.
The problem is they got to go to Cleveland this weekend. Now the Browns battled, but they lost to the Seahawks in Seattle last week. The score was 24-20. They leaned very heavily on their running game with Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford, excuse me, and Pierre Strong. All three of those guys combined for 155 yards on 40 total carries between the three of them. Hunt scored on the ground, and quarterback P.J. Walker completed a touchdown pass to tight end David Njoku. But he also was intercepted twice, and he lost a fumble. You can't do that up in Seattle with the 12th man screaming at you all day long.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that makes it really tough. The previously vaunted Cleveland defense did very little, basically little to nothing to slow down the Seattle offense. They only got one sack, which is very lackluster for them. 3 quarterback hits, 1 and 4 tackles for loss. I don't know. Did what's his face play?
You
I mean,
know,
I don't know. It seems like he didn't because they didn't get much done. However,
you didn't jump over any tall buildings or nothing like that.
he didn't jump over any tall buildings with a single bound, but the Browns will be at home in Cleveland. They will have the dog pound behind them. I have no idea who's going to be the quarterback, but I know one thing. The Cardinals quarterback is probably going to be a rookie who hasn't played a stitch this year. So I got to go with the Browns.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. If this rookie comes out and actually beats the Browns, he'll make history. I'm telling you. All right. With a bias plus score of 5.7, the 4-4 Minnesota Vikings, who will be in Atlanta to play the 4-4 Falcons. So that's a battle of mediocrity right there, buddy. The averages 50%. The bias plus favors the Vikings, but that's all based on Kirk Cousins and the numbers that he put up. And to be quite honest with you, the reason that it's as close as it is because that's how close it was for most of their games. You know, so Kirk Cousins had great outings, but the games wound up being pretty close. As a matter of fact, the Vikings net points was ranked 14 at plus 1.6. The Falcons, however, came in at 22nd at minus 2.9.
Where were the Falcons scoring wise? I'm sorry, where were the Vikings scoring wise?
15th, putting up 21.9 points per game.
Okay.
So, and they were 15th from defense, allowing 20.3.
That's interesting.
So that's where you got that small, net point.
Right.
So that again, you can win or you can lose by those margins. The Falcons, however, a little more all over the place, 28th in scoring at 17.3 points per game, 14th on defense, allowing 20 points a game. So you got a 20-point defense against a 22-point offense.
Okay.
Point defense for the Vikings against a 17-point offense for the Falcons. Sounds like the Vikings. Again, though, we have no Kirk Cousins. So this ain't the Vikings.
Right, but we do have a Joshua Dobbs who we just got finished praising 5 seconds ago. So anyway, both teams, Vikings have to go to Atlanta. Both teams suffered injuries to their quarterbacks. The Vikings lost Kirk Cousins for the rest of the season with a torn Achilles. Now, before he went down in the fourth quarter of the game last week against the Packers, he was having another really nice statistical day, which he has been doing all season long, and he was leading the Vikings to another victory, this one a 24-10 win over the Green Bay Packers. They have since acquired Joshua Dobbs. He's the quarterback that will be traveling with them to Atlanta. So, you know, this is a guy that we already talked about as far as being a quick learner, and we'll see how quickly he can adopt himself to the receivers down there and the Minnesota playbook. Now, as far as Atlanta is concerned, after taking 5 sacks by the Titans defense in the first half, quarterback Desmond Ridder was evaluated for concussion at halftime. He must have wobbled in there after the first half was over, and somebody figured they better check him out. He did clear the protocols, but he was not allowed by his head coach to go back into the game. This kind of sounds like the same thing that Stefanski did in Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. Even though the doctors said that he was able to clear all the protocols and all the tests for concussion, they still held him out anyway. I mean, 5 sacks in the first half, I probably would have kept him out too. In comes Taylor Heinicke. If you had asked me last week what team Taylor Heinicke was on, I probably would have said I don't know. Guess what? Now I do. So he took over. He took over. He was able to drive the Falcons to scores on 4 of his first 5 possessions. I always liked Taylor Heinicke. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I have always liked Taylor Heinicke. How Washington could let him go, I don't know. But anyway, he drove them downfield 5 times. They scored on 4 of those drives. His touchdowns pass to Scotty Miller with 3:46 left in regulation, closed the score to 28-23. But that ended up being the final because on their last drive of the game with no timeouts left, they ended up turning it over on downs. So he couldn't get the last one done to win the game, but he got him back in the game and got him really close.
Okay.
Now, that being said, assuming that because Desmond Ridder passed all the protocols at halftime, and I haven't heard anything about him having any mental setbacks during the week, I'm going to assume that he will start this game next week or this weekend against the Vikings. That being
and
said,
didn't his coach proclaim him the starter? Or he is our quarterback, or something like that?
if he already did, then that's great. That's what I assumed he would do. So that being said, Josh Dobbs comes in with the Vikings, who I would have readily taken to win this game if Kirk Cousins was there, but he is not. However, I still don't trust the Falcons defense. I think Josh Dobbs comes in there and pulls off the minor miracle, and the Vikings beat the Falcons.
Okie dokie here. So, okay. Going with the bias. Going with the Vikings.
Going with the bias.
Now, let me ask you a question. Their number 1 receiver for the Vikings, is he still out?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So he's not there. All right.
No, I think he's due to come back, I want to say week 10, which is coming up.
I couldn't remember his name.
Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson, right. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to double check that, but I'll double check that.
Okay, no problem. All right. Okay, Benny, next up. The 3-5 Rams go to visit the 2-5 Packers with the bias plus of 1.2 favoring the Rams. So you have 2 teams, Benny, who aren't exactly lighting the world on fire. Lots of questions. I'm not sure about your quarterback there for the Rams. I think he hurt his thumb or something like that.
Yes.
Rams offense is only ranked 14th. They're scoring 21.9 points per game, and their defense is ranked 21st, allowing 23 points per game. However, that's better than the offense. The 21st ranked offense for the Packers only scoring 20. I mean, not that much better. But the 20th ranked defense allowing 22. So you have a battle of mediocrity going on right here. Not sure about your quarterback. You can tell us about that. And again, Mr. Jordan Love has the spotlight on him.
Boy, does he ever. I tell you, he was looking pretty promising there in a couple of games, but lately been a little shaky. Packers lost their 4th straight game, and they're slumping very, very badly. And he's part of the bad slump. They've been outscored in the first half of their last 5 games, 73-9. Talk about getting off to slow starts. They haven't scored a touchdown in the first half of any of those 5 games. Not nary a touchdown. Field goals, yes. Touchdowns, no. Very, very shaky. And I think on the trade deadline, I don't know if you made a list of any players that moved on the trade deadline. I was going to, but I got tied up with some fantasy stuff and didn't get a chance to make a list. I'm pretty sure I heard Rasul Douglas's name possibly moving to another team. That's off of that defense. So, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there with the Packers, but it ain't looking good. Now, the Rams fell behind Dallas by 30 in the second quarter last week before Matt Stafford led them on scoring drives before and right after halftime. So that kind of got him back in the game. But then he had to leave the game in the third quarter with a sprained UCL in his right thumb, which is his throwing hand. So the UCL, I believe, is the ulnar collateral ligament. It's somewhere in your thumb here. I think it's on the inside part of his thumb, which is going to make it difficult for him to grip the ball. If, in fact, he cannot play, Brett Rippon is his backup. And Brett Rippon is the guy that came in to finish the game after he got hurt. But at this point, Stafford is day-to-day. The defense had no shot at stopping the bleeding because Dallas just went crazy on them. Final score ended up being 43-20. Rams defense wasn't that good to begin with. And Dallas, who I know people get on the Dallas Cowboys a lot, and we'll talk about them a little bit later when we get to their game. They've been up and they've been down. The crazy thing is when they're down, they look pretty bad. But when they're up, they look damn pretty good. And this is one of those games when they looked really, really good. That being said, Rams going to Green Bay. If they go with Stafford, I like them to win the game. If Stafford doesn't play, I'm not sure. Only thing is, I got to make a pick.
Yes, you do.
So I'm going to, they haven't ruled Stafford out. He's day-to-day, which means he's really trying to play. I think he's going to play. I'm going to take the Rams in this game. Again, I'm going with the bias.
Going with the bias, going with the Rams, even though they will be in Peckerland, Cheesehead land. Home field, not going to get it done for the Packers, eh? You just really
don't
trust
I
Jordan
don't-
Love.
They're in trouble. Packers are in some trouble.
All righty. Next up, potential intriguing game of the week for me. Where you have the 5-2 Seahawks versus the 6-2 Ravens. The bias
Ah,
5 favorite.
now that is an intriguing game.
Tell me about it.
I agree with you on this one for sure.
Tell me about it. I mean, Benny, when I look at it, okay, the 11th ranking for the Seahawks is they're allowing 19.7 points per game, just under
Okay.
20 points per game. Okay.
That's not as good, but 11th
But it's
is a
11th.
good spot. Yeah.
It's an 11th spot. Ravens are ranked number 1, allowing 15.1 points per game. That's why I had to get that right. I was like, 11 couldn't be more than, so yeah, 15 points a game.
Right.
Seahawks are allowing 20 points a game.
Right.
And the Ravens are, like I said, 7th in offense, putting up 25 points per game. Seahawks are 11th, putting up 24. So the defenses, you got Walker for the Seahawks. Power running back, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what he could do, against that Ravens defense. But yeah, this could be a slobber knocker of a game, man.
Yeah, I think so. You got two teams that really love to run the ball. This is going to be very interesting. The Seahawks played the Browns last week. The Browns defense, of course, has been rated very highly, not necessarily in points against, but points, yardage, turnovers, things of that nature, all put together, have them ranked pretty high as far as NFL rankings are concerned. The Seahawks jumped out to a 14-point lead against them last week, but they let them back in the game. And they had to make some big plays in the fourth quarter to actually pull out the win. The final was 24-20. Now, I don't know if they relaxed in the middle of the game, but they seemed to be in control for most of the game. Safety Julian Love intercepted a deflected P.J. Walker pass with a little bit less than 2 minutes left in the game. And then Geno Smith threw a pass for the winning score to rookie wideout Jackson Smith-Njigba. So that's how they got the final score, 24-20. They did have to turn it on there at the end. The thing is, they were able to do it, even though they were a little sloppy in the middle of the game. Like I said, they jumped out to the 14-point lead. They seemed to relax a little bit, but when they needed to turn it on, they were able to do it. And the fact that they were able to do it against the Browns defense lets me know that these guys are really serious on offense. Seahawks are a team to be reckoned with. Now, I praised Lamar Jackson and the Ravens' new offense last week in their 31-24 win in Arizona. Gus Edwards ran for 80 yards and 3 touchdowns. Gus Edwards. Been waiting for Gus Edwards to do something. I have him on a couple of fantasy teams. I'm like, dude, what are you going to do here? J.K. Dobbins got hurt. You were supposed to be the heir apparent. Getting off to a slow start, but he had 80 yards, 3 scores. That's a real nice fantasy day. But other than that, the offense kind of struggled to move the ball. Now, the week before, everything was clicking. The backs were clicking. Lamar was clicking. He was throwing the ball well. Everything looked great. This week, not so great, but they still got the job done. They were helped by their defense also. The defense did record 4 sacks and 2 takeaways, so that always helps. I'm going to go with the Ravens in this one. They're at home. I think their offense is looking pretty good. It's really starting to gel, and their defense should have enough juice to slow down the Seahawks just enough. This is going to be a really tough game, though. This is going to be a game to watch. If I wasn't such a red zone nut, this is a game I would sit and watch for sure.
Yeah. There's certain games, you want to just sit and watch the whole thing play after.
Right.
I tell you. All righty. But once again, he's going with the bias.
Yeah, I know. This is kind of scary for me.
All right. Let me see here. What's next? Bam! Buccaneers. 3-4 against the Texans, 3-4. However, the bias plus score of 2.3 favors the Texans. Yeah, I don't believe in Baker. I'm sorry, Benny. I'm not a Baker guy.
No.
Nah. I mean, I see him do. Baker's a guy, man. He's going. I think he's a great backup. We're going to go to the conversation again about quarterbacks and stuff, because I'm going to put together a list of guys who are starting who I think should actually be great backups.
Well, yeah, I mean, is that really fair with so many starters being hurt? Or are you talking about guys who are anointed the starter that actually don't have the goods to be a starter? Is that what you mean?
Well, that would be Baker.
Okay.
That would be the Baker case, Again, we talked about how much investment is being put into starters versus backups, and how I believe that that's off in terms of the balance. I believe you got to build your backup a little bit more. So, in any event, we have the C.J. Stroud coming off a loss to the #1 draft pick last week. They're trying to make something out of it in the media, but I don't really. It wasn't much.
Well,
Benny, tell me what happened near the end, because what I understand, the refs really got involved near the end and really helped the Panthers.
I don't know about that. There's been some questionable calls in some games. I don't know that there was one in that game that was so egregious that it was worth noting. Although, I could go back and look, but while I was making my notes for this game, I didn't really see anything that they were really harping on. In the battle between the two quarterbacks that were taken in this year's draft, the highest, the first and second quarterbacks taken, C.J. Stroud had to take the L to Bryce Young and the previously winless Carolina Panthers. Now, the Texans weren't able to get much going offensively with only 140 yards through the air and only 250 total yards. So that means they didn't get the running game going either. The defense did do their part. They did sack Bryce Young 6 times. They did hit him 10 times.
Wow.
And they had 10 tackles for loss. But C.J. Stroud couldn't find the end zone. That's what ended up killing him. Defense played extremely well. Now, the Buccaneers lost to the Bills last week, 24-18. Doesn't sound that close, right? They were down 24-10 going into the fourth quarter. Baker Mayfield got it to 24-18 with a touchdown pass to Mike Evans with 2:44 left in the game. They had one more shot, but Mayfield had to throw a Hail Mary, and it fell harmlessly between several players in the end zone. If you saw that play, it was kind of weird. It was like nobody knew where the ball was. I don't know what the heck happened there. Clearly, somebody could have caught that ball. It looks strange. But anyway, it harmlessly fell to the ground, and that was the end of that, and they lost. Now, I think the Bucs can go into Houston and beat the Texans. I really do. I'd like to take the Texans. I know the bias says the Texans. I kind of feel like C.J. Stroud is due for a bounce back after that loss to the Panthers, which I believe should have been a little bit embarrassing, because when you give it a winless team their first win, everybody's kind of looking at you kind of cockeyed. But I think Baker and the boys are going to go in there and they're going to beat the Texans. So I'm going to go against the bias. I'm going to pick the Buccaneers in this
one. Well, one interesting point about these two teams is that the defenses are like right next to each other. The Texans are coming in ranked 6th, giving up 18.3 points per game, and the Buccaneers are ranked 7th. Excuse me, they're tied 18.3 points per game.
Wow, they're tied. Okay, so here, this is crazy now. Number one, I knew Houston's defense would be better even before the season started because their new head coach is a defensive guy. So I knew in my heart that he was going to make sure if they didn't do nothing else, they tighten up their defense, which they have done better than even I thought they would. Tampa Bay's defense is normally good and normally in the position that they're in right now, but I thought they wouldn't be as good. I thought age and injury was going to get to them, but they're hanging in there. Again, this could be an intriguing game.
It could be because, I mean, really, the Texans offensively putting up 21 points per game. The Buccaneers putting up 17.
Yeah.
So that's the difference right there. The Buccaneers offense is just a little less potent.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud and them getting it done a little bit better. But
in fact,
they're home. So you're going to go against the home team and against the bye with Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to go in there and beat the Texans.
In fact,
I've
only done it once this season, and it blew up in my face, but I'm going to do it again. I'm going to change my pick. You just talked me into taking the Texans.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. All right. Going with the bias.
Yeah, I think this was a bump in the road for CJ, and I think he bounces back.
I'd love to see it. Okay. All right. The Commanders, 3-5 Commanders at the 2-6 Patriots. Bias plus score of 1. One measly little 1 favors the Commanders. 1.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
The Patriots got their groove on. Again, it was super spooky. Patriots turn around. Who did they beat that nobody expected them to beat?
That was 2 weeks ago. They lost to the Dolphins.
Oh, well, that's okay. We understand. We understand.
No, they did win a game in week 7. They beat somebody.
They beat somebody. Yes, they did.
Yeah, they had a recent win. I can't find it in my notes right now. Oh, they beat the Bills. 29-25 in Foxborough.
In Foxborough.
Yes, that was a big win for them. However, as I said about the Dolphins, it was the same score that they lost by when they played the Eagles. It was 31-17. Mac Jones did throw 2 touchdown passes, but they lost to the Dolphins. He threw 1 touchdown pass in the first quarter. He threw 1 in the fourth quarter, and not much to talk about other than those 2 touchdown passes. They did nothing else the rest of the game. The Commanders' game against the Eagles, however, had plenty to talk about. No matter how bad they look against anybody else, they always play Philadelphia hard. Sam Howell threw for a whopping 397 yards. He almost put up 400 on them boys. 4 touchdowns. But his defense let him down. They put up very little resistance to the Eagles offense, who just ran roughshod over them and matched these boys point for point and won the game. But for some strange reason, I don't know if it's Howell, I don't know if it's Bieniemy, I don't know what it is. All I know is every time they play the Eagles, they give a great performance.
They do. Yes, they do.
Somebody needs to take the look at this film and take better talent and do the same things that they're doing and beat the Eagles. That still hasn't been done yet. Oh, yeah, they did lose 1 game, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah, but still. Anyway, so Commanders got the bias, huh?
Check this out, Benny.
They're going to
Patriots offense is ranked 31st.
Yeah.
Only averaging 14.8 points per game.
Yeah.
The Commanders defense is ranked 31st. They're allowing 28.5 points per game.
Right.
But I think they might have a little bit of skew kind of in there because of what the Eagles playing.
Yeah, they let up 4 touchdowns. The Eagles let up 4 touchdowns on the Commanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Patriots at home on this one. I think Commanders kind of shot their load. If I go back and look at what they did the previous week after they played the Eagles, I think it was pretty miserable. Yeah, if I'm not
Do they
mistaken.
lose anything going in to play the Patriots now that they've allowed their D ends to go? One to the Bears, one to my Niners.
Well, that doesn't help. That doesn't help at all. In fact, in week 2, they beat the Broncos 35-24. They came back the next week and they lost to the Bills 37-3. So
Lost.
then they came back in week 4 and lost to the Eagles 34-31. The following week.
So 1 week they score 3 against the Bills, and the next week against the Eagles they score 31 points.
31. Then they come back the week after that and lose to the Bears 40-20. Oh, I'm taking the Patriots. That's a trend.
Up and down, up and down. Which one
I'm
is
calling that a
Is it
trend.
up or is it down?
Yeah.
All right, going against the bias, going with the Patriots. Goats 3-5. Panthers 1-6. Bias plus of 7.3 favors those Colts. Minshew, right?
Minshew.
Now, see, that's what you call a starter who makes a great backup right there. And I think you said he was voted #1 backup at one point during the season.
They were talking about it very seriously. The only thing is, he was not anointed the starter. Remember, the rookie won the competition in camp.
Oh, you talking about the coach? Yeah, but I mean, he was a starter in his career.
Yeah, but that was a while ago. That was in Jacksonville.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a starter.
Okay, he was a starter. Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
You know how long ago that was?
Been a while, but he was a starter at one point. He's
Okay.
making an
All right.
excellent backup. Now the Panthers have the Red Rifle as their backup, right?
Yeah.
So you got 2 guys with some starting experience. Red Rifle being a lot more current in terms of his starting time. But he's right there waiting for Bryce Young to bite it for a second, and he's ready to come in and do some serious backing up.
The difference is Andy Dalton was a starter for several years. He was a proven starter for several years. Didn't have a great record. The team wasn't really, really good, but he was the starting quarterback for several years. Gardner Minshew came in, he started maybe 2 or 3 seasons, and he's been a backup ever since. But
the Red Rifle might have gotten a few extra years because of that coach that you hated so much.
who knows? That's probably because they believed in him. They never tried to get another quarterback to take his place that I can remember. I can't remember them ever having any serious quarterback competition in camp. He was always their guy.
And the coach wasn't going anywhere for a long time, so.
Right. So Andy wasn't going anywhere either. But it's not that Andy didn't stink. He didn't stink. Let's remember he had some good years in Dallas too. Well, not good years, but he had some good games in Dallas. Okay. But yeah, his starting day is definitely early. So last week offensively, the Colts did some pretty good work against the Saints. Gardner Minshew threw for 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor ran for 95 yards. Zach Moss ran for 66 yards, and Zach Moss had a touchdown on the ground. Unfortunately, the Colts defense didn't generate much of a pass rush, and their secondary got shredded by Derek Carr for 354 air yards. That's a mess. Your secondary, if they can't stop anybody, that's going to be a problem. Okay. Even though Jonathan Taylor is playing better and better each week, they still depend a lot on Minshew to drive them down the field and get them scores. And if their defense can't stop anybody, that's going to be a problem. It might be some entertaining games, a lot of shootouts with Minshew throwing for a lot of yards, but it may not translate to a whole lot of wins. Now, as stated earlier, the Panthers got their first win of the year over Houston. That was 15-13. Bryce Young wasn't spectacular, but he was pretty efficient, just not real productive. He was 22 of 31. He threw for 235 yards. He did throw one touchdown. The kicker, Eddie Pinheiro, kicked 3 field goals, including the game winner, after Young did lead the team down the field on a 15-play, 86-yard drive. So I have to give Bryce Young credit for that drive to get him down for the game-winning kick. That was big time for him. But even that weak Colts secondary should be able to handle Panthers offense. I believe after they got their first win, it might be a couple more weeks before they get another one. And I'm going to take the Colts to win that game.
Going with the bias. Going with the Colts. All right,
Yes.
Here we go. Next up. Uh-oh. Now see, this is a big game. It is an intriguing game, because you're talking about, probably argue with 2 of the top 5 teams in the league. Eagles have the best record at 7-1. Cowboys are 5-2. And the Eagles have been winning, but not in large net point fashion. I think their average right now is what? 6? Yeah, net points, 6.5 net points on average is their win margin. The Cowboys' win margin is 11. But we know that they had a couple big games, where they really kind of ran the score up. The Eagles haven't had many of those. So it's an interesting connection between the second-ranked offense of the Cowboys and the 19th ranked defense of the Eagles. We're giving up 21.5 points per game. Cowboys are scoring 26.
Yeah.
And then you've got this third-ranked offense of the Eagles putting up 28 points per game, matching up with the fourth-ranked defense of the Cowboys, only allowing 17.
And what are the Cowboys scoring?
Cowboys are scoring 28.1 points per game.
They've had a couple of big blowout wins too.
So you're talking about the second-ranked offense of the Cowboys and the third-ranked offense of the Eagles. They're putting up 28.
Yeah.
The defense is 19th ranked, and the Cowboys defense is 4th ranked.
Okay. Well, boy, this is kind of a toughie here.
And it's a division matchup.
Yes.
Which makes it even weirder.
And the Cowboys, I was going to say the Cowboys are home, but they're not at home. The Eagles are at home. So Dak and the boys went to work on the Rams last week. It's not a whole lot to talk about. 4 touchdown passes. 3 of them went to CeeDee Lamb, who was relatively quiet going into that game, but had a big explosion. 304 yards through the air, and a very super efficient day for Dak. 25 of 31. Woo!
Wow.
Can't get much better than that. They also had a pick 6 by the corner, Darren Bland. The Eagles, well, they had that game against the Commanders. It's 38-31. Commanders gave them some trouble. Now, I'm gonna say something that's going to make me very unpopular with Eagles fans, which I have a tendency to do. But I want to remind them that since the start of the season, everybody's been kind of saying, Jalen Hurts don't look right. Something wrong with him. Then he's limping. He's got a brace on his knee. Oh, they don't look right. Maybe it's the coordinator. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. AJ Brown is making Jalen Hurts look really, really good. AJ Brown is having a phenomenal season. He's out there mossing dudes 2 and 3 times per game. So much so that Devontae Smith is having a very pedestrian season. AJ Brown is on fire right now. He really looks like he can't be stopped. So the Eagles got that going for him. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to beat the Cowboys in this game. I think they're hot. I think they're feeling it. I think Dak and McCarthy are finally getting on the same page. I believe the Cowboys, people are going to say I'm hating on the Eagles because they know I'm not an Eagles fan, but I'm not. And I could be wrong, as I say every week, but I'm picking the Cowboys to win this game.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense. And it's, the Cowboys seem to be better on both sides of the ball, where the Eagles have one
I'm going
side
with the bias.
very questionable. Going with the bias, going with the Cowboys. Your beloved New York Football Giants, 2-6. They get the disheveled Raiders, the 3-5 disheveled Raiders, with their new head coach, former Giant, right?
Yes, sir.
I know you're all happy about that.
Antonio Pierce. Well, number one, it's great to see an ex-Giant player get a head coaching job, even if it's interim. Number two, it's great to see an African-American coach get a head coaching job, even if it's interim. Hopefully it leads to a permanent job. So we'll see.
Never said, though, the bias plus 1.1 favors the Raiders.
Yeah, it does. That's because we stink. But just like I said last week, if there's ever a game that we can win, oh, Jesus.
Well, the Raiders are going to be starting their backup. Garoppolo's not going to be starting.
Right.
Once they start making memes showing Devontae's face, and it's like, this is what it looks like to go from Aaron Rodgers to Garoppolo. And he's like,
Unbelievable. That's a shame.
that is a shame. That is a shame. And the funny thing is, everybody whose job is on the line got these fantastic contracts on open. They're all going to get paid one way or another. You can fire us if you want. You can cut me if you want, but you're going to pay me.
It's so bad. It's so bad in Vegas. They're still paying Gruden.
Yeah, that's bad enough.
Right. They were barely a year and a half into McDaniels' new contract. He had a 6-year deal. So they'll be paying him. Yeah, they'll be paying him for what? It's a mess. It's a mess.
That is crazy. They're
going to come in and start a rookie quarterback. So anyway, the Jets versus the Giants was a defensive battle. It really was. And actually, both defenses played pretty well. But both offenses played pretty bad. Tyrod Taylor sustained a rib injury in the second quarter. Giants had to go with a practice squad quarterback by the name of Tommy DeVito.
So, Benny, the Raiders now have a new GM. They have a new coach. They have a rookie quarterback. And they're going to be hosting the New York Football Giants. Who's your quarterback now?
Tommy DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
Yeah. Might as well be Danny DeVito.
Okay.
Dayball decided, since he had to bring DeVito in off the practice squad, that he was going to try to win this game the old-fashioned way on the ground. They almost ran the ball exclusively through very few passes. Saquon actually carried the ball 36 times, which is a lot. Yes.
36?
36 times for 128 yards. And thanks to the defense, they almost pulled it off. Unfortunately, with 28 seconds left and a 4th and 1 on the Jets' 17-yard line, they decided to try to kick the field goal to win the game. And Graham Gano missed the 35-yarder. And he was having a really good season too, by the way. I don't know what the heck happened. He just missed it. The game ended up going to overtime after the Jets kicked the field goal, tied up. And the Giants won the toss, got the ball first, and they threw 3 passes to Saquon behind the line of scrimmage. Didn't get damn near a yard and ended up having a punt.
Really?
I have no idea where this play calling went. You've been running the ball the whole game. Just keep running the ball. It was like,
I'm going to do something smarter. I'm going to do something different, something they're not expecting. We're going to throw the ball to the same guy.
3 times in a row, in overtime,
Behind the line of scrimmage, much less.
behind the line of scrimmage, and then punt, which now allows them to win with a field goal, which they promptly did. And that was the end of that. Oh, God. Now, talking about pathetic offenses, Jimmy Garoppolo threw for 126 stinking yards, and the Raiders could only grind out 80 yards on the ground. They did have one really good drive early in the game. I think Josh Jacobs ran the ball like 11 times in a row or something. It was crazy. And they scored on that. And then they got a pick 6 from Marcus Peters. That was their other score. I don't know who's in worse shape. Well, I do know who's in worse shape. The Raiders are in worse shape. They really are, believe it or not. If there's other Giants fans out there besides me, take heart. I think this is a game we can win. I know that's famous last words from last week. That was, in fact, the game we could have won and should have won, but we didn't pull it off. But I think we will pull it off this week. I'm going to pick the Giants to go to Vegas and beat the Raiders, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. I'm not going to change this one. I'm sticking with my Giants.
All righty there. All right. I understand. There's a Giant connection here. Giants are going in the other direction to the left coach, so they should be okay. 1.1 favors the Raiders, and that's a very, very small bias. So Bills 5-3 at Bengals 4-3 is the Sunday night game. The bias plus of 9.9 favors the Bills. But Ben, I'm listening to, who was I listening to today? Was it Stephen Smith talking about Josh Allen and not to put him up there with the quarterbacks of the like of Joe Burrows and Pat Mahomes because he'd never gotten past the divisional round of the playoffs, first round of the playoffs.
Okay.
The Bengals, we've seen, Ben, he talked about it earlier, over the last 3 weeks are winning by the #1 margin in the NFL. I believe that was the Bengals, right?
Yes. No, it was actually the Ravens.
The Ravens, they were like
That's
second.
okay.
Say that again?
I said that's okay because they are looking good over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, they really are. And again, they beat my Niners. Joe Burrow looks like he never had a injury problem all of a sudden. And
yeah, Joe's back from his calf injury 100%. I know they got off to a slow start. I know he was kind of gimpy there early on. but they've had their bye week, and it looks like he took good care of it, and he looks great right now. You cannot throw the ball much better than he did against the Niners last week. 28 of 32. Let me say that again. 28 of 32.
Jeez.
283 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. His much maligned offensive line was pretty good in this one. They did give up 3 sacks, but that's against the Niners, who have one of the best front sevens in the league. So I'll take that.
That's
Bengals are looking
7.5% completion ratio.
the Bengals are looking real scary now all of a sudden. Whereas the Bills are really not looking very scary. Now, one of the problems for Buffalo lately was getting off the slow starts. That was really plaguing them. Okay. Against the Buccaneers last week, they had a field goal in the first quarter, 2 touchdown passes in the second quarter, jumped out to a nice lead. Oh yeah, Josh Allen ran one in too. But after that, they started cruising a little bit. And then in the fourth quarter, they had to hold on. I talked about Baker Mayfield's Hail Mary pass. They could have actually won that game, crazy as that might sound.
Yeah, it could have.
Yeah. So that it didn't happen. But yeah, Buffalo's defense is not what it was. And I don't know if you can completely blame it on Josh Allen, but the offense is looking real skittish right now, too. I thought their running game would be better. In fact, I believe the running game is better, but I don't think they use it enough, or they're not using it properly. Something is off. Something's off. Stephon Diggs knows something's off. And if they don't get it together, we're going to have another rant like we had with Devontae Adams over there in Buffalo with Stephon Diggs. But yeah, this is an easy one for me. I take the Bengals at home all day on this one. I don't think this actually going to be. If this was a few weeks ago, I'd say this was an intriguing game candidate. But now, no. I think the Bengals are doing everything right, and I think the Bills are struggling. I'm taking the Bengals.
Picking the Bengals. And I actually do think this is somewhat of an intriguing game because the question is, are the Bengals on a real tear? I mean, how much better?
I believe they are.
We shall see. We shall see. But I did say about the Bills last week, and I see it again in the numbers here. Because I said everybody's talking about, the Bills are struggling, the Bills are struggling. That might be correct. But they're 4th in offense and 3rd in defense, as far as is concerned. So, I mean, the Bengals is hard to compare because from where they came from after the horrendous first few games that they had.
Right.
They're like 24th in offense, 16th in defense over the season.
Right.
Average everything in. So I do believe this is going to be somewhat of an intriguing game.
I mean, even with those high rankings, the Bills have 3 losses already.
That is true.
That's not normal for them.
That is true. That is true. All right. But that's Sunday night, Benny. We got one more game here. The Monday night matchup. Your crazy Chargers, 3-4, at your crazy Jets, 4-3. The bias plus of 3.3 favors the Chargers. I mean, the Chargers have the 9th ranked offense.
Yeah.
The Jets have the 8th ranked defense.
Okay.
So that's
interesting.
Interesting. But the Jets have the 26th ranked offense, and the Chargers have the 24th ranked defense.
Yeah.
It really is pretty closely, a pretty even match. in terms of what they've done on average up to this particular point. All right, who you got?
Well, the Chargers are coming off a win against the Bears, but you know,
It's the Bears.
Yeah. Justin Herbert had his way with their secondary, threw the ball all over the place. They didn't put up much of a fight. The Jets-Giants game was kind of goofy. Both teams looked kind of sorry offensively, but both teams did look actually pretty good defensively. I forgot to mention that the Giants' first-round pick, Kayvon Thibodeau, the pass rusher, had 3 sacks in that game. He looked like he's turning a corner for us, so I'm glad to hear that. But we're not talking about the Giants right now. We're talking about the Jets. And the Jets had a couple of big plays in that Giants game that made a difference. Wow. Chargers, this is the Sunday night game?
Try the Monday night game.
Oh, it's the Monday night game. Okay. So that kind of negates the West Coast to East Coast thing. But I find it very hard to trust the Chargers. I really, really do. Obviously, they have the better offense. But obviously, the Jets have the better defense. The Jets will be at home. I think the Jets defense will prevail. I cannot trust the Chargers. I'm not taking them. I'm going to go with the Jets.
Going against the bias.
Yes.
Going with the Jets, Jets. The only team I had any family that played for. All right. Well, Benny, that wraps up the week of matches and for the Bias Plus reports. But you know what that means, don't you? That means
You have a buster?
we have the Bias Plus Buster of the week. Those darn Cincinnati Bengals. The Bias Plus Buster scored 32 over my Niners. But I had to give it to them. They had the highest Bias Plus Buster score of the week. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Can't go against the numbers. So they are the Bias Plus Buster of the week. Congratulations. Give you a little backhand.
That's a big win. It was a big win for them.
It was a big win. Shoot, it was a big win. I mean, it got my Niners reevaluating everything. You know, they're like, wait a minute, we got no sacks against the Vikings and couldn't get pressure, couldn't stop the run with the Cincinnati. We got to do something.
Good.
And then picked up. You figure between was it Hargrave that they picked up early, and then they just picked up a guy about a week or two ago. What's his name? For the defensive line.
Chase Young.
No, a week or two ago.
Oh, no, you got the other guy, Josh Sweat.
They got
no.
Josh Sweat went to the Bears. No, about a week or so
went to the Bears.
They got somebody. The Niners got somebody about a week or two ago. I forget his name off the top of my head.
Oh.
But they did add somebody, and then they turned around and added Chase Young.
Right.
So, you know, but it's going to be interesting because I believe Trent Williams is the biggest missing piece here. Trent helps everything work better.
Okay.
So, and he's been missing over the last, between him and Debo, that's just 2 big missing factors to work around. And we almost did it, but we'll be okay. Cincinnati Bengals, congratulations for the Bias Plus Buster score of the week. All right, Benny, so that wraps up the Bias Plus reports for week 9 of an 18-week season, 17 games, which means we are now officially past the halfway point. You mentioned that we had a number of teams that were on the bye. You want to run by that list one more time?
The Denver Broncos, the Detroit Lions, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars will not be playing this week. They are all on the bye.
What does that do for your fantasy lineup?
I'm going to lose Purdy on a couple of teams. I have a lot of Lions players, so that's going to hurt me a little bit. And I got Trevor Lawrence on a couple of teams and Calvin Ridley. So, yeah, this is a bad week for me.
You got some work to do. You got some.
I got work to do.
All right, I got work to do too. I'm gonna have to process and produce this video. Remember, if you're on YouTube, to like the videos, to click the notification bell, and make sure that you subscribe to Ben and Barry on Football, as we will go through these weekly matchups and give you all the insight that we can. Wrap it up, Benny. Peace out.
Put a bow on it.
All right.